Hello everyone, I'm the Saxy Gamer, and today we're here for yet another Civilization 6 Leader Spotlight, where today we'll be taking a look at Victoria of England. So Victoria's first ability is known as Pax Britannica, and it makes so that all cities founded or conquered on continents other than her home continent receive a free melee unit. In addition to this, she also just gains the ability to build Redcoat units when she reaches military science. Pax Britannica it's generally just not a very good ability. It really doesn't tend to do anything that's all that impactful. It's more useful whenever you're conquering cities on continents other than your own, but whenever you're founding them, that extra melee unit, I guess it can be nice because it can help you defend that city early on, maybe if there's barbarians around or anything like that, but aside from that, it doesn't really do all too much. It can be nice, though, whenever you're conquering other civilizations, that maybe if you lose a melee unit or two in the fight for the city, once you conquer the city, you'll get that melee unit effectively back for free. So that is something that is nice. It can be helpful for domination if you're going on land. But the only thing is you do have to be on other continents as well. So this is situationally, it only comes into play situationally, and even so, it's not particularly fantastic. So Pax Britannica overall, just kind of eh. Victoria's second ability is known as British Museum, and it makes it so that each of her archaeological museums can hold 6 artifacts instead of 3, and all of them can also support 2 archaeologists at once instead of just the usual 1. And in addition to this, archaeological museums are automatically themed when they have 6 artifacts. So British Museum is a little bit better than Pax Britannica, I think. The fact that your archaeological museums can hold double the amount of normal artifacts is something that is actually pretty good, especially if you're able to get a lot of artifacts. Then this can be really, really nice because you'll have plenty of space for them. It's effectively, just like you have double the number of archaeological museums. So you could use this to either get a ton of artifacts if you're able to go out and excavate that many, or you could use this to maybe build a few art museums and a few archaeological museums and get a little bit of both art and artifacts. So that is something that is nice. The automatic theming, I guess it's nice. It's just kind of a luxury thing. Most experienced players will be able to theme themselves anyways, so it's not really anything that's really a bonus. But if you're a little bit less experienced, you don't know how theming works, this can be very nice. And even so, it is just something that you don't really have to think about when you're playing Victoria, just because your archaeological museums will theme themselves. So overall, British Museum, it actually can be a fairly decent ability. Moving on to England's unique units, we have 2 of them. We have the Redcoat and the Sea Dog. The first of which, the Redcoat, is unlocked with military science. It's a totally unique melee unit, so it doesn't replace anything. It has a melee strength of 65, which is up +10 from the musketman, a movement of 2, which is the same as the musketman, a production cost of 340, which is up +100 from the musketman, and a maintenance cost of 5 gold per turn, which is 1 more than the musketman. In addition to this, it receives +10 combat strength on non-home continents, so that's any continent that your capital is not on, and it also costs no movement cost to disembark. So the Redcoat it actually is a very, very strong unit. The fact that it is totally unique, though, does kind of suck. The Redcoat is very, very similar to the Garde Imperiale that France has, except France's is a little bit more defensive because it gains the boost on their home continent, and England's gains the boost on their non-home continent. So for defense, the Redcoat's not going to do too much good, just because it is really expensive to produce. It costs a little bit more to maintain as well, and sure, it is going to have 10 more combat strength than the musketman, but other things such as cavalry will still be able to beat up on the Redcoats quite easily. The reason I did compare it to the musketman as well is because that's just probably what you'll be fighting. It does kind of fall perfectly in between musketmen and infantry, so that is something to consider as well. But if you are on continents other than your home continent, the Redcoat is going to absolutely destroy because it'll have 20 more combat strength than a normal musketman, which will probably be what you're fighting. So you'll pretty much tear through anything that you'll be fighting. This is around the combat strength of cavalry, so having a bunch of more, units that are around the strength of cavalry are super good, and it just can make it so that you get ridiculously high combat strength. So that is something that is very good with the Redcoat. Offensively, they can do quite well. They are, as I mentioned, though, very expensive. The production cost is quite high. The maintenance cost is a little bit steep as well, and you can't pre-build them, so that does suck. So as long as you're able to get them out, they will do you pretty good, and this can help if you're conquering other continents as well, that as you conquer more cities, you'll get more Redcoats because you'll gain another melee unit from Pax Britannica, so a lot of the times that will give you another Redcoat, and that will just help fuel your steamroll. England's second unique unit is known as the Sea Dog, and it replaces the Privateer. It has a melee strength of 40, which is the same as the Privateer, a range strength of 50, which is also the same as the Privateer, a movement of 4, which is also the same as the Privateer, and a production cost of 280, which is also the same as the privateer. There is one thing that separates the Sea Dog from the privateer, though, and that's that the Sea Dog can capture enemy naval ships, and this chance is entirely based off the difference in combat strength between the Sea Dog's range strength and the melee strength of the other ship. So the Sea Dog is, I mean, it's okay. I don't find myself normally building very many privateers whenever I play, and I think frigates are generally kind of better than privateers, but the Sea Dog there is some incentive to use it. If you have someone else in the game that has a really big navy, you can build a few Sea Dogs and just capture a big part of their navy, and then that's going to make it really nice, because then you'll have an even bigger navy, they'll have no navy, and you'll probably have the biggest navy in the game, and you can just go and be a terror to everybody that's on the shore or anything of the sort. Take all those coastal cities, take everybody else's naval units, and just be a huge menace. The fact that it doesn't have any combat boost, though, does really suck. Especially since its capture chance is based on the difference between combat strength. Also, this is not affected by things such as Great Admirals or anything like that. So the fact that it doesn't have any combat boost does kind of suck, but the ability to capture ships is pretty nice, and I find that situationally it can be a little bit helpful. But overall, I don't find this to be too impactful, but as I mentioned, situationally this can be pretty good. As far as England's unique district is concerned, we have the Royal Navy Dockyard, which is a special district that replaces the harbor. It provides all the normal harbor adjacency and trade route bonus and Great Admiral point and all that stuff, but it does have a few special traits as well. So you gain +1 movement to all naval units trained in the city. You gain +2 gold if this is placed on a non-home continent, +4 loyalty if on a non-home continent, and it also costs half of the harbor's usual production costs. So since the production cost of district scales, I can't really put a specific number on that, but it will always be half of what the normal harbor cost would be. And then also, as I've said, it gives you the normal harbor gold adjacency, the trade route, and the Great Admiral point, and I think a citizen slot as well. The other thing I didn't mention is that as of, I think it was the spring 2018 patch, the Royal Navy Dockyard will also provide a melee unit when built on a non-home continent as well. Like upon finishing production of it, you will gain a free melee unit just like with Pax Britannica. So the Royal Navy Dockyard I think is actually pretty good. It kind of helps play into the naval focus of Victoria and just England as a whole. +1 movement to all naval units trained in the city can actually be quite nice. The other big thing is that +4 loyalty if on a non-home continent. This can be really crucial, especially just considering how hard naval domination has become just because of loyalty. Loyalty makes it almost impossible to take cities on the coast if you don't have a lot of other cities around. So being able to get +4 loyalty can be quite nice, and the fact that it has half of the harbor's usual production costs can make it so that this is a little bit easier to put out and then get that +4 loyalty, so that is nice. The extra 2 gold it's not really all that impactful. You need a lot of Navy dockyards to make that impactful. But overall, I think that the Royal Navy Dockyard situationally can be really good as long as you're not on your home continent. It's really good. If you are on your home continent, it's just kind of eh. And now with all of this in mind, it is time to talk about some of the strengths and weaknesses of Victoria and the English in Civilization 6. So for the first strength, just the big thing with England, and the one thing that England does very well, is that they maintain a very strong cross-continent presence. So being across multiple continents as Victoria is something that is super, super, super strong. You get so many bonuses from it, and with the additional policy cards that give you a lot of other bonuses for being on non-home continents, if you're able to get a big part of your empire that's not on your capital's continent, then you can get so many bonuses from that, and that is where England really, really shines, is whenever they're not on their own home continent. So for that reason, I think that is the biggest strength of them, is just how many bonuses they're able to get whenever they're not on their home continent. This kind of leads into the weaknesses, though, and that's that, for one, they have a very, very niche playstyle. So whenever you play England, you pretty much have to go for the cross-continental naval game, because otherwise you're just going to be missing out on a lot of their bonuses. So they don't really get any yield bonuses to anything like that, so districts aren't going to be too huge of a focus. Making sure that you're getting down your Royal Navy dockyards is pretty big. Building a big navy can be very nice. That's going to allow you to go pretty aggressive on other coastal cities. That might make it so that it's easier to expand across continents, but you absolutely have to be expanding across continents and just on your non-home continent, because if you're not, then you're missing out on Pax Britannica, you're missing out on a lot of the strength of the Royal Navy Dockyard, you're missing out on the strength of the Redcoats, you're just missing out on a lot of stuff if you're not across continents. So that is the one thing that really sucks, is that if maybe you're not able to settle very far, you're not able to expand too much in the game, England pretty much immediately becomes pretty terrible. The other big weakness is that, much like with other naval civs, they are really reliant on naval/coastal opponents. So if opponents aren't building navies, then your Sea Dog is pretty much just a normal privateer, so that's negated. Then your ability to have a big naval presence, if people aren't settling coastally or having a navy, is also pretty much just gone. So if you are going to play Victoria, I would recommend playing on archipelago or island plates, because without that naval factor and just other people having a navy for you to be better than, Victoria kind of loses a lot of the stuff that makes her good. So that is one thing that really does suck, is you pretty much have to make sure that you are playing against people that will have coastal cities and will have navies. And now it is that time to give Victoria her tier rankings. So if you're new to the series, what I do is I give each civilization a tier ranking in each of the 4 victory types, so domination, science, culture, and religion, and those rankings just kind of gauge these civilizations' general proficiency at attaining either of their rankings. I give them an overall ranking as well, which takes into account things such as their spawn bias and their versatility, and that ranking just kind of pits them against the other legions in the game and gives you an idea of where they fall. All of our rankings go from S to F, with S being the highest and F being absolutely terrible. So let's go ahead and rank Victoria. So Domination's up first, and I think that Victoria deserves a B in Domination. She is actually a fairly decent Domination civ. She has a few things going for her, especially if you're able to go cross-continent. So across continents, your Redcoats will be extremely powerful. They'll have immensely high combat strength, and they'll be able to just steamroll through a lot of cities. And then if you're also not on your home continent, that whenever you take those cities, you'll be getting another free Redcoat or respective melee unit as well every time you conquer a city, so that can just help steamroll you into taking another one, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one, and that is something that is really strong with Victoria. You also do have the Sea Dog, which is pretty decent for naval games if you're able to capture another opponent's big navy. If you're able to take a lot of their ships, you can then go and take all of their coastal cities or something of the sort, so that is another pretty big strength of Victoria. The other nice thing is that if you're not on your home continent, you can get a little bit of loyalty from the Royal Navy dockyard, which can help stabilize cities that you take as well. So overall, Victoria is actually fairly decent at domination, especially on those navally focused map types, and I think she deserves a B. Science is up next, and I think that Victoria deserves a C. She doesn't really have too much going for her here. I mean, she doesn't have any bonuses towards science, doesn't really have any bonuses towards production either, so those are two really, really big things for science, and she's really not getting any of those bonuses, but she still can go for science if maybe you take a lot of land and then you build a bunch of campuses. So for that reason, though, I think that she is fairly average and deserves the C. Culture's up next, and I think that Victoria deserves a B. She's slightly better than average in culture. This pretty much entirely just comes from her second ability that gives her more artifact slots and also automatically themes her archaeological museums. So for experienced players, it's not going to be too huge of a difference, but if you are inexperienced and you don't know how to theme yourself, then that can be a huge bonus to you, because the amount of tourism that you get from having themed museums as opposed to unthemed ones is actually pretty ridiculously high. So just being able to get those more artifacts, if you're able to get a ton of artifacts, you can fill up all your museums, have them all themed, get a bunch of tourism from that, and win. That really is her only kind of route towards getting culture victory, though, is just relying on those artifacts. She doesn't really have many other options for culture other than that, but it is something that is nice, and it does definitely put her a little bit ahead of the culture curve. So for that reason, I think she deserves the B. Religion's up last, and I think that she deserves a C. Much like with science, she really just doesn't have any particular reason to go for religion, nor does she have any bonuses towards it. So you could, in theory, just build a bunch of holy sites once you take a lot of cities, but you would pretty much be able to do that on any other civ. So for that reason, I think that she is average and deserves the C. And for her overall ranking, I once again think that she deserves a C. She's not a bad civ. She is situationally very, very strong. So whenever you are playing Victoria, I would recommend playing her on the larger map types that have a lot more continents, because the more continents you can get across with Victoria, the better you'll be. She has a very, very niche playstyle, though. Like, there's only one or two ways to play Victoria, and if you're not able to play those ways, you're not able to get across continents or start your snowball towards a domination victory, then Victoria really just lacks a lot of things. And if you're not able to start winning as Victoria, then you probably never will win as Victoria, just because she's so reliant on getting those first few cities on other continents that without that, you're really just going to be lacking any sort of impactful bonuses at all. So, situationally, she can be very strong, but it is very, very situational as well. So, for that reason, I think she deserves the C. So, thank you everyone for watching. I have been the Saxy Gamer. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you're looking for more Civilization 6 content, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.